It's a strange feeling when cynicism is validated. It's always nice to be right, but when you're right about something awful, you kind of wish you were wrong. That's how I felt about not believing this old lady who claimed to be punched in the face outside of a Trump rally in North Carolina last month.
69-year-old Shirley Teeter is a fighter. She's fought back from a major surgery and fought for causes. After the rally, Teeter experienced something she never saw in all of her protests. The piece teetered over to violence.
I said, "You better learn to speak Russian." And I said, the first 2 words are going to be ha ha. And he stopped in his tracks and he turned around and just cold-cocked me.
My girlfriend sent me that news story when it broke, and my immediate reaction was, I 100% guarantee it's fake. 100%. I don't want to doubt a seemingly sweet old lady, but I'm supposed to believe that an old lady was punched in the face and there's no visible damage? Not even a bruise? What sealed it for me was the closing line in the article. She asks if people find a Trump supporter punching her in the face deplorable. Who the hell has a zinger prepped for getting beat up?
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood. Nobody!
I don't want a piece of you. I want the whole thing!
Just a flesh wound.
Yeah. Those were also scripted. Validation came later when footage emerged of a surprisingly nimble Miss Teeter pursuing a nearly blind man whom she grabs from behind when she gets bumped over by the force of him merely turning around in surprise.
Ms. Teeter approached him from behind and grabbed him on the shoulder. He reflexively moved his hand back. He never saw her.
So, surprise, surprise, the left has faked another attack. Add this case to the list of dozens of examples of fake victimization in recent years, like the guy who carved "die fag" in his own arm, or the student who tweeted fake threats against black students at her school to blame white people, or Muslims who burn Qurans or their own mosques to blame Islamophobia. Truly, there is no peril like that of a professional victim in victimless society. To become a victim of your own thirst for victimhood, that is the pinnacle of progressive enlightenment. And what fascinates me about the current left is they both fabricate and perpetuate violence. They fake it against themselves and they commit it against their opponents. We've seen it on display at Trump campaign rallies across the country this year, assaulting people, smashing cars. The rally that established this trend was in March in Chicago, where through violent action, they shut down the event entirely. Just this last weekend, someone threw a firebomb into the office of the North Carolina GOP and left a message to Nazi Republicans to leave town or else. Yeah, Nazis, we're deporting you through coercion. But don't worry, you get a nice train ride out of town, and we built you a nice camp elsewhere. And in the face of the obvious problem one side obviously has with violence, we have a complicit media that pretends somehow this isn't a problem, or it's a problem that both sides have equally, or worst of all, as one CNN commentator did regarding this North Carolina office burning, blame it on Trump's rhetoric.
Another example out of North Carolina today, the firebombing of a local GOP office. That kind of action is unacceptable, and we need to have the temperature come down on all sides right now. Unfortunately, Donald Trump is the lead in terms of raising the temperature at this moment in time.
It was already insane to pretend this isn't a problem, or to pretend it's equally distributed, or to engage in the only victim blaming the left finds acceptable. But maybe they had some plausible deniability in that, up to this point, the mantra of current year leftism still applied. Not all leftists are violent. Checkmate. More precisely, up to this point, one could have plausibly argued that a few bad apples were poisoning the bunch. Surely no leadership was condoning or directing these actions. Well, not anymore. Were events like the Chicago shutdown and the lying grandma disparate, unrelated actions of a few bad people? Not according to new evidence from undercover journalist James O'Keefe, who recently published this video infiltrating organizations contracted by the Democratic National Committee and the Clinton campaign to agitate or to incite violence at Trump rallies.
If you're there and you're protesting and you do these actions, you will be attacked at Trump rallies. That's what we know.
So that's part of the process of eliciting the reaction.
The whole point of it is we know that Trump's people will freak the fuck out. His security team will freak out, and his supporters will lose their shit. I mean, honestly, it is not hard to get some of these assholes to pop off. You can message to draw them out and draw them to punch you.
But keep it on the DL. We got to maintain the illusion that this is all grassroots and that Trump protesters didn't do nothing.
We have to be really careful because what we don't need is for it to show up on CNN that the DNC paid for X people to. That's not going to happen.
Hey, luckily CNN's got your back. You can literally commit arson and they will still blame Trump. And several of the worst examples of violence against and fake violence accusations toward Trump rallies and Trump supporters are directly attributable to this operation, the Chicago shutdown.
Me and I did the Chicago Trump event where we shut down the light bulbs. Yeah.
But the Chicago protest, when they shut all that was us. It was more him than me, but none of this is supposed to come back to us. Because we want it coming from people. We don't want it to come from the party.
And the lying grandma herself, who apparently had been trained for this action.
Remember this woman? Her name is Shirley Teeter.
She was one of our activists.
She was one of your activists
who had been trained up to bird dog. To funnel that kind of operation, you have to start back with people 2 weeks ahead of time and train them how to ask questions.
Right.
You have to train them to bird dog.
And make no mistake, these guys aren't lone wolves. They aren't some small group operating separately from the DNC or the Clinton campaign. They are explicit about their relationship with party leadership and the candidate herself.
Hillary is aware of all the work that you guys do, I hope.
The campaign is fully in it.
And then they tell Hillary what's going on.
Well, I mean, Hillary knows through the chain of command.
Yeah.
We have a call with the campaign every day to go over the focuses that need to be undertaken.
I just had a call with the campaign and the DNC every day at 1 o'clock.
How much more evidence do we need to be honest about which side has a problem with violence? Prior to the release of this video, we already knew both actual and fake violence were under almost sole ownership of the left. Now we have compelling evidence that it isn't a coincidence. It is directed and organized in consultation with campaign and party leadership. The same media that has spent this campaign season reporting on how Trump incites violence.
But if anyone else had said that, you think that it would be considered, inciting violence?
I do, and I think it should be with Donald Trump.
Just said again, you don't condone the violence, but sir, the record is clear, and we're going to put up some tapes. You have condoned violence in rally after rally.
The problem of anti-Muslim attacks, they have been on the rise since last week's massacre, and there are concerns that Donald Trump's comments could incite more violence.
The same media are now silent when provided with direct admission of organized and intentional incitement to violence. Huffington Post makes the claim at the end of every article that Trump regularly incites political violence. I wonder if they will do the same for Hillary or for the Democratic Party in light of this new evidence. That's not their response. That's just the natural sound of a Huffington Post article. You'll never get the media to admit a double standard, to admit bias, to admit promoting a political agenda and a political narrative. But if ever there was a tacit admission, spending the better part of a year obsessively dissecting what could be implied incitements of violence.
Let's go back to Donald Trump for a moment. He's talked before about taking away the guns of Hillary Clinton's Secret Service agents. So now he's upping the ante, if you will, saying last night, quote, let's see what happens to her. Is he inciting violence here?
And then staying silent about a categorical, organized, intentional scheme to incite violence certainly qualifies. Who they think they're serving, I have no idea. It is certainly not the citizenry. It is certainly not our democratic system. But even more curiously, it's certainly not themselves. There is a reason James O'Keefe's video is currently going viral, while network TV news is spiraling downward. If the trend continues, maybe someday O'Keefe is the boss and CNN is the underground alternative. I'm not happy about the current state of media. Almost nobody is, but the silver lining is the trend is in the right direction. O'Keefe did some amazing work here. If you haven't already, please go watch his video in full, and not only this one, but he's releasing a whole series of videos with really compelling footage. Check him out, and of course, be in touch with me anytime if you'd like to share your thoughts. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion. Down below, and especially over on Twitter, that is at Matt C on YT. You're always welcome to come hang out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to. Okay, bye.